Broncos Country family, hold tight, because you're not going to believe what happened with Evan Engram after that game against the Titans. The injury that seemed like a bomb for our season might have turned into the best news of the week. But before you celebrate, there are details here that you need to know before the next game against Indianapolis. And look, if you thought our offense already had problems after what went down with Bo Nix on Sunday, wait until you find out what really happened behind the scenes with our rookie tight end. Let's start from the beginning. Broncos Country, last Sunday was one of those games where we win, but come out with more questions than answers. Bo Nix struggled to find his rhythm. Our offense looked stuck, and when the defense had to save the day once again, everyone knew we needed urgent adjustments. But of all the players on the field, none had a more frustrating day than Evan Engram. Imagine the situation. It's the guy's debut in orange and blue. All the expectations on him to give that extra boost to the offense, and then 3 receptions for just 21 yards. 3 for a tight end who was signed precisely to be an escape valve for our quarterback. That was way too disappointing. But then comes the worst part. Engram leaves the field in the middle of the game with a calf injury that had everyone's hair standing on end. When that injury happened, family, the feeling was terrible. The guy had barely started the season with us and was already heading to the locker room, limping. Everyone thinking the same thing. Here we go again with injuries messing up our plans. Because you know how it is, right? Season after season dealing with injuries that come at the worst possible time. The initial medical evaluation didn't paint an encouraging picture at all. The medical staff was worried about the possibility of it being a serious muscle strain, the kind that keeps a player out of action for weeks. And considering our tight end position wasn't exactly swimming in options, losing Engram right in the second week would be too heavy a blow for our offense. But then Wednesday came with a surprise nobody expected. Broncos Country. The more detailed examinations showed that Engram's injury isn't as serious as it initially seemed. Instead of a complicated muscle strain, what he has is a calf contusion. For those not familiar with football medical terms, a contusion is basically a bruise, an impact that causes pain and swelling, but recovers much faster than a strain. The difference between these two types of injuries is huge in terms of recovery time. A serious muscle strain could keep our tight end out for 3, 4 weeks, or even more, depending on the grade. A calf contusion, even being painful and limiting at first, is usually resolved in a matter of days with proper treatment. And look what good news came to brighten our week. Engram was able to participate in Wednesday's practice. Of course, it was with limitations, doing only light and specific exercises, but the fact that he's on the field is already an extremely positive sign. The Broncos medical department is known for being conservative with injuries. So if they cleared him to practice even in a restricted way, it's because the situation really improved quite a bit. Now, Broncos Country family, let's talk about what this means for our next game against Indianapolis. The Colts are no joke, especially playing at home, and our offense is going to need all available weapons to be able to move the ball consistently. Having Engram available, even if he's not 100%, would be a crucial addition to our offensive scheme. The offensive coordinator is certainly planning different scenarios for Sunday. With Engram available, we have more options to diversify our offense, create more confusion in the opposing defense, and give Bo Nix those escape valves that every rookie quarterback needs. Without him, we're basically depending on Adam Troutman and Lucas Krull at the position, which considerably limits our tactical possibilities. But between you and me, there's a legitimate concern about rushing Engram's return too much. The Broncos medical department is going to have to make a tough decision, risk putting him on the field while not completely recovered, or be more conservative and wait a few more days to ensure there won't be a setback. The situation gets complicated because Nate Adkins, another tight end on our roster, is also dealing with physical problems. This means our depth at the position is quite compromised at the moment. If Engram can't play and Adkins continues out, we're going to have to depend on practice squad elevations, which is never the ideal scenario for facing a team like Indianapolis. Caleb Lohner, our 7th-round draft pick, is on the practice squad and would probably be the first name considered for an elevation. The kid has potential, but he's a rookie and still adapting to the professional level. We also have Patrick Murta on the practice squad, another tight end who could be an emergency option. What makes me most optimistic about this whole situation is how Engram himself is reacting to the treatment. Experienced players like him know how to distinguish between pain that's just discomfort and pain that indicates a serious problem. The fact that he was able to practice, even limited, suggests we're moving in the right direction. The next few days will be crucial to determine his availability for Sunday. The coaching staff will observe how he responds to Thursday and Friday practices. If he can participate more intensively in those sessions, especially Friday, which is usually the practice closest to game pace, the chances of him being available against Indianapolis increase significantly. We also need to consider that even if Engram is available, he probably won't be at his physical best. Calf contusions can affect mobility, the ability to make quick cuts, and even timing with the quarterback. Sean Payton and his coaching staff will have to adapt the game plan to maximize what Engram can offer within his current physical limitations. A possible strategy would be to use Engram more conservatively, focusing on simpler routes, backfield blocking, and third down situations where his experience and sure hands make all the difference. It wouldn't be the ideal moment to ask him to run those more dynamic routes that require explosion and sudden direction changes. From a psychological standpoint, having Engram back, even partially, would be a huge relief for our attack. Bo Nix is still adapting to the NFL pace, and having a veteran tight end as an escape valve in pressure moments can make all the difference in our young quarterback's development. Indianapolis's defense will have to prepare for multiple scenarios. They won't know until Sunday if Engram will be available, and if he is, what his level of participation in the game will be. This uncertainty can be used to our advantage in the week's tactical preparation. So, what's up? Broncos Country family, if you want to stay on top of all the updates about injuries, signings, and everything that goes on with our team, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because here you always find out first about everything that happens in the orange and blue universe. Every week there's new content and analysis you won't find anywhere else. Let's dive deeper into the tactical situation that Engram's injury created for our offense. Broncos Country. When we look at Sean Payton's scheme, it becomes clear that tight ends play a fundamental role in the functioning of the offensive machine. It's not just about making receptions. They're key pieces in the running game, pass protections, and as escape valves in third down situations. The problem we faced against the Titans was precisely the lack of fluidity in the offense. Bo Nix seemed uncomfortable in the pocket, our routes weren't creating consistent separation from defenders, and the running game, even with good individual performances, wasn't being sustained efficiently. Having a versatile tight end like Engram available could have completely changed the dynamics of that game. Think with me. How many times last Sunday did our quarterback run out of safe passing options and have to force plays to covered receivers? With Engram on the field and 100%, we would have had one more reliable route, especially in situations where Bo needs a guaranteed reception to keep drives alive. The calf contusion, even being less serious than initially feared, will still affect some aspects of Engram's game. The calf is fundamental for initial explosion in routes, for making quick cuts, and for overall stability when making receptions in motion. So even if he's available against Indianapolis, we probably won't see him running those more dynamic routes that require sudden direction changes. This means Sean Payton will have to be creative in utilizing our tight end. Instead of complex crossing routes or seam routes that require vertical explosion, we might see more utilization of him in check-down situations, quick slant routes, and strategic positioning for pass protection blocks. One thing that makes me confident is Engram's own experience dealing with this type of situation. Veteran players in the NFL learn to play hurt, to adapt their playing style to temporary physical limitations. He knows that sometimes it's better to be on the field contributing at 70% capacity than to be completely out. The Broncos' medical strategy in this situation also deserves recognition. The fact that they cleared Engram for limited practice on Wednesday shows they're following a well-structured recovery protocol. They're not rushing too much, but they're also not being overly conservative to the point of missing an opportunity to have him available for an important game. Thursday and Friday practices will be determining factors. It's common in the NFL for players to participate in progressive sessions throughout the week. Wednesday limited, Thursday more participatory, and Friday trying to get as close as possible to game intensity. If Engram can complete this progression without setbacks, the chances of him being in the lineup Sunday increase dramatically. We also need to talk about the psychological impact of this situation in the locker room. When a new player who was signed to be an important piece gets injured right in the first game, it can generate an atmosphere of apprehension. Teammates get worried, the coaching staff has to rethink strategies, and even the player himself can develop anxiety about his physical condition. The news that the injury is less serious than initially thought brings relief not only to Engram, but to the entire group. This creates a more positive environment for the week's practices and allows everyone to focus on preparation for Indianapolis without that cloud of uncertainty hanging over the team. Now let's talk about what Indianapolis represents as a challenge, Broncos Country family, because this game won't be easy by any means. The Colts have a defense that knows how to pressure young quarterbacks like Bo Nix. And if our offense isn't firing on all cylinders, we could have serious problems. Indianapolis's defense specializes in creating turnovers. They have fast linebackers who love to intercept check-down passes and defensive backs who know how to read inexperienced quarterbacks' routes. If Bo Nix doesn't have all offensive weapons available, including a reliable tight end like Engram, he might find himself in very complicated situations. That's exactly why Engram's recovery becomes so crucial for our chances Sunday. It's not just having one more pass target available, it's having an experienced player who can help Bo identify blitzes, who can serve as an escape valve in pressure situations, and who has reliable hands when we need to convert third downs. The Colts defensive coordinator is certainly studying our first game against Tennessee and saw all the difficulties we had on offense. They'll try to replicate some of the strategies that worked for the Titans, like pressuring Bo with extra blitzes and covering our main receivers well. If Engram is available, this forces Indianapolis to dedicate extra defensive resources to cover him, which can open up spaces for our other pass targets. It's like a positive domino effect. Having more offensive options, we force the opposing defense to make tough decisions about where to concentrate their attention. But we also have to be realistic about the limitations. Even if Engram is on the field Sunday, he probably won't be at his physical best. This means we can't depend on him the same way we would if he were completely healthy. Sean Payton will have to put together a game plan that maximizes what Engram can offer within his current limitations. An interesting possibility is using the uncertainty about Engram's condition as a psychological weapon against Indianapolis. They'll have to prepare for multiple scenarios. Engram playing normally, Engram with limited participation, or Engram completely out. This uncertainty can affect their defensive preparation during the week. Let's talk about something that might not be obvious to everyone, but is super important: how Engram's situation directly affects our rookie quarterback's development. Broncos Country. Bo Nix is in the process of adapting to the professional level, and one of the most important things for any young quarterback is having reliable pass targets. Veteran tight ends like Engram are fundamental in this process because they offer a safe passing option in situations where the quarterback is under pressure or when primary routes aren't working. Against Tennessee, one of the difficulties Bo faced was precisely the lack of reliable escape valves. When pressure came, when the main receivers were well covered, he didn't have anywhere to go with the ball safely. This forced him to hold the ball longer, risk forced passes, or end up taking unnecessary sacks. With Engram available, even if he's not 100% physically, Bo gains an additional option that could be crucial for his development. Experienced tight ends know how to position themselves to help young quarterbacks, know how to find empty spaces in the defense, and have reliable hands to make receptions in pressure situations. Additionally, Engram's presence on the field also helps with pass protection. Tight ends play an important role in protection schemes, whether staying in the backfield to block or running quick. Release routes that force pass rushers to be careful with coverage. The timing between quarterback and tight end is something that develops with repetitions in practice and in games. The sooner Bo and Engram can establish this chemistry, the better it will be for our offense long term. That's exactly why having Engram back for the game against Indianapolis, even if partially, could be very valuable for the future of our season. Now we need to talk about a more concerning subject. Broncos Country family, our lack of depth at the tight end position. When Engram got hurt, and with Nate Adkins also dealing with physical problems, it became evident that our depth at this position isn't the best. Adam Trautman and Lucas Kroll are competent players, but they don't have the same level of experience and versatility that Engram brings to our offense. This means that if there are any complications in our main tight end's recovery, we're going to have to make significant adjustments to our offensive strategy. The practice squad has options like Caleb Lohner, our 7th-round draft pick, but rookie tight ends rarely have immediate impact in the NFL. The position requires a lot of tactical knowledge, precise timing with the quarterback, and ability to execute multiple functions within the offensive scheme. Patrick Murtagh is another option on the practice squad, but emergency elevations are rarely ideal solutions for important games like this one against Indianapolis. These players can be useful in specific situations, but don't have the preparation or experience to take on a significant workload. This makes Engram's recovery even more crucial. It's not just a matter of having one more offensive option. It's a matter of keeping our tactical identity intact. Sean Payton designed our offense counting on the versatility and experience of a tight end like Engram, and without him, we need to make adaptations that might not be ideal. The good news is that calf contusions, when properly treated, usually have good recovery. The Broncos medical department has experience dealing with this type of injury, and the fact that Engram himself is already participating in limited practices is a very positive sign. Thinking beyond the game against Indianapolis, Broncos Country family, this situation with Engram teaches us some important lessons about roster management and preparation for the rest of the season. First, it becomes clear that we need more depth at the tight end position. If we're going to compete for the playoffs, we can't be dependent on a single player, no matter how talented he may be. The front office will probably evaluate options in the free agent market or even possible trades to strengthen this position. Second, the medical department will have to develop specific protocols to manage Engram's workload throughout the season. Players in his age range need special care to avoid fatigue or overuse injuries. Third, our coaching staff needs to develop alternative schemes that work well even without our main tight end. This means giving more responsibilities to other players, adapting routes and protections, and finding creative ways to maintain our offensive effectiveness. The current situation also offers an opportunity for players like Trautman and Kroll to show what they're capable of. Sometimes starter injuries open doors for backups to prove they deserve more opportunities. If these guys can have good performances while Engram recovers completely, our depth at the position will naturally improve. For Caleb Lohner, even being on the practice squad, this could be a chance to accelerate his development. Rookie tight ends normally need time to adapt, but situations like this can force faster maturation. Looking at our schedule for the next few weeks, Broncos Country, it becomes clear that we need Engram back as soon as possible. We have important games coming up, including divisional matchups that could define our position in the AFC West standings. Every game he's out is a missed opportunity to develop chemistry with Bo Nix and establish our offensive identity. That's exactly why, even if he's not 100% physically against Indianapolis, it might be worth having him on the field to maintain this continuity. Of course, we can't be irresponsible and risk a more serious injury. But if the medical department gives the green light, even for limited participation, it might be better than leaving him completely out and losing another week of offensive chemistry development. The AFC West is competitive this year, and every victory will be precious. We can't afford to leave points on the table because of injuries that could be managed more aggressively. As long as it's safe, So what's the real situation for Sunday against Indianapolis? Broncos Country family. Based on everything we know so far, I'd say the chances of Engram being available are good, but he probably won't be at his best physical level. I expect to see him participating mainly in third down situations, as an escape valve for Bo Nix, and in formations that don't require much lateral mobility or sudden direction changes. Simpler routes, timing routes, and strategic positioning for blocks. The most important thing is that he's on the field to maintain the continuity of our offense's development. Even with physical limitations, his experience and tactical knowledge can make a difference in crucial game moments. Sean Payton is an expert at adapting his game plan to the limitations of available players. If Engram is 50% physically, Payton will find ways to use that 50% effectively. For Bo Nix, having Engram available, even limited, will be a huge psychological relief. Knowing he has a reliable escape valve can make all the difference in a young quarterback's confidence. In the end, Broncos Country, this situation with Engram reminds us why we love this sport so much. Injuries are part of the game, adaptations are necessary, but the Denver Broncos family always finds a way to overcome adversity. The news that the injury is less serious than it initially seemed is exactly the kind of positive development we needed this week. It shows that sometimes the bad things that happen at the beginning can turn into extra motivation for the rest of the season. Engram seems determined to return as quickly as possible, and that speaks volumes about his character and commitment to our team. Players like that are fundamental to creating a winning culture in the locker room. Regardless of whether he's available Sunday or not, we know our offense will find a way to function. We have enough talent on the roster, a creative offensive coordinator like Sean Payton, and most importantly, we have a family of fans who never give up supporting the team. This week will be crucial to define how our season will develop. With Engram recovering well, Bo Nix having another week of experience, and our defense continuing solid, we have all the ingredients to have a great game against Indianapolis. Engram's recovery also gives us hope that our roster depth, even with limitations, can be sufficient to compete at a high level. Sometimes adverse situations reveal qualities we didn't know existed in our team, so let's hope Thursday and Friday practices go well, that Engram continues progressing in his recovery, and that Sunday we can see our offense functioning with all pieces available, even if some aren't 100%. So what do you think about this whole situation with our tight end, Denver Broncos family? Do you think we should risk putting Engram on the field even though he's not completely recovered? Or do you prefer being more conservative and waiting a few more days? I want to know your opinion here in the comments. Leave your predictions for Sunday's game. Tell me if you think our offense will be able to function better with Engram available. And don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed these detailed analyses about everything going on with Broncos Country. Share this video with all friends who are also Denver Broncos family, because quality information like this needs to reach everyone who bleeds orange and blue. And obviously, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates about our team throughout the entire season. See you next time with more hot news from the Broncos world. Until then, family, and may Sunday be a convincing victory against Indianapolis. Go Broncos!